God's chosen ones, hear this clearly. Not with your ears, but with that quiet place inside you that's been holding on through nights nobody applauded, through prayers that felt like they hit the ceiling and fell back down. There has been a shift, and it didn't happen loudly. It didn't come with fireworks or announcements. It came silently, the way most real miracles do. Your season of wanting is ending, and you're stepping into the season of having. Not wishing, not hoping, not imagining, but actually holding, actually walking in, actually living what you once only talked to God about in whispers. For a long time, you've known what it feels like to wanting answers, wanting peace, wanting stability, wanting confirmation that all the sacrifice wasn't for nothing. You wanted the door to open, the phone to ring, the breakthrough to finally choose you, and wanting stretched you. It humbled you. It taught you patience you didn't ask for and strength you didn't know you had. Wanting shaped your character long before it shaped your circumstances. And God let you want, not to punish you, but to prepare you, because what you're about to have requires a version of you that could only be built in the waiting. There were days you smiled in public and wrestled in private, days you said, "I'm fine," when you were anything but fine, days you did everything right and still felt overlooked, and yet you kept going. You stayed faithful when it would have been easier to fold. You stayed kind when bitterness tried to take root. You stayed obedient when rebellion would have felt justified. That wasn't accidental. That was training. That was refinement. That was God building capacity in you. So when the blessing arrived, it wouldn't crush you, confuse you, or change you into someone you don't recognize. See, wanting is fragile. Wanting dreams, but doubts at the same time. Wanting believes and questions in the same breath, but having requires steadiness. Having requires discernment. Having requires wisdom, because what God is about to place in your hands is weighty. It carries responsibility. It carries influence. It carries visibility. And God never promotes without preparation, never elevates without equipping, never releases without restraint first. You may not realize it yet, but the delays you resented were protecting you. The doors that stayed closed were saving you from walking into something too early. The silence you hated was God teaching you how to hear Him without noise. You thought you were being ignored, but you were actually being insulated. While you were waiting, things were aligning behind the scenes. People were being moved. Circumstances were being rearranged. Timing was being perfected, because what's coming has a specific moment attached to it. And when it arrives, it will make sense why it couldn't have happened sooner. Your season of wanting made you pray differently. It made you desperate in a holy way. It made you strip your prayers down to the truth instead of polished words. And God listens closely to those prayers. Not the performative ones, but the raw ones, the ones whispered through tears, the ones spoken at 3 a.m. when nobody else could hear. Those prayers didn't disappear. They were stored, and now they're being answered, not always in the way you imagined, but in the way that will last. You're about to notice something change inside you before it changes around you. The anxiety that once followed you everywhere won't have the same grip. The fear that used to scream will start to sound distant. The need to explain yourself to people who never understood you will fade. That's how you'll know the shift has begun, because when God moves you from wanting to having, He also moves you from striving to resting. Not lazy rest, but confident rest. The kind that knows you don't have to chase what's already assigned to you. There was a time you chased validation. You chased opportunities. You chased approval, but now what's meant for you is going to start finding you. You'll look up and realize doors are opening without you forcing them. Conversations are happening without you initiating them. Favor is showing up in places you didn't even apply for. That's not coincidence. That's alignment. That's what happens when heaven backs what's happening on earth. You had to learn how to live with empty hands so you'd appreciate full ones. You had to learn how to manage little so you wouldn't mishandle much. You had to experience lack so abundance wouldn't turn you arrogant. God was shaping your heart the whole time. That's why even now, as things begin to shift, you still feel grounded, you still feel grateful, you still feel aware that none of this is by your own power. That humility is going to keep you safe in the season of having. And don't be surprised if people who doubted you suddenly celebrate you. Don't be shocked if those who overlooked you now want access to you. That's part of the transition too. But remember who you were when you were wanting. Remember who stood with you when there was nothing to gain. Remember who God was to you when nobody else was around. Let that memory keep you centered. Let it keep you discerning, because not everyone who claps for you is meant to walk with you. This new season won't just bring things, it will bring clarity. You'll understand why certain relationships fell apart, why certain plans didn't work, why certain paths closed abruptly. You'll see the bigger picture and realize God wasn't taking from you, He was clearing space. Space for what fits. Space for what's aligned, space for what's sustainable. You were trying to carry things into the future that didn't belong there. And God loved you too much to let that happen. You're stepping into a season where prayers turn into testimonies, where lessons turn into wisdom, where wounds turn into authority. The things that hurt you are about to help others through you. The battles you survived are going to become blueprints for someone else's breakthrough. That's the beauty of God's timing. Nothing is wasted. Not the tears, not the confusion, not the waiting. It all gets woven into purpose. Having doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean there will never be challenges again, but it does mean you'll face them differently, with confidence instead of panic, with faith instead of fear, with discernment instead of desperation. You're no longer begging God to move. You're walking with him as he does. That's maturity. That's growth. That's the mark of someone who's been through the fire and came out refined, not bitter. Pay attention to the subtle blessings first. The peace that settles without explanation, the clarity that comes without chaos, the confidence that doesn't need applause. Those are signs you're crossing over. Big blessings often arrive quietly before they arrive loudly. Don't rush this moment. Don't try to announce it too soon. Let it root before it shows. Let it stabilize before it multiplies. You've been faithful in the unseen, and now the seen is responding. You sowed when it didn't make sense. You trusted when it wasn't convenient. You obeyed when it was uncomfortable. And now the harvest is beginning to surface. Not all at once, not overnight, but steadily, intentionally, in a way that builds and lasts. And even now, as you feel this shift, there may still be moments of disbelief. Moments where you ask yourself, is this really happening? That's normal. When you've lived in wanting for so long, having can feel unfamiliar at first, but you'll grow into it. You'll realize you were always meant for this, that the desire was the evidence, that the longing was the invitation, that God placed those visions in you because he fully intended to fulfill them. So stand steady, stay humble, stay grateful. You're not entering this season by accident. You were led here, shaped here, prepared here. And as you continue forward, you'll notice that what once felt out of reach is now within grasp. What once felt delayed is now unfolding, and what once felt impossible is beginning to feel inevitable. Because the same God who carried you through the season of wanting is now walking you into the season where you begin to see, touch, and live the very things you once only dared to ask for. And as this transition deepens, you may start to sense a new responsibility rising alongside the blessing, a quiet awareness that what you were stepping into is not just for you, not just for comfort or celebration, but for stewardship, influence, and impact. And that realization will begin to shift the way you pray, the way you move, the way you choose. Because now you're not just asking God for more, you're asking him how to handle what's already starting to arrive, how to protect it, how to grow it, how to walk worthy of it. And in that moment, you'll feel something else awaken inside you, a deeper hunger, not just to receive, but to align, to saint it close, to remain sensitive, because you know this season is precious. And you don't want to rush ahead of God now that you've finally caught up to where he's been leading you all along. And as you take that next step forward, you may begin to notice that even your desires are changing, becoming clearer, purer, more focused. And that's when you'll realize that the greatest shift isn't just happening around you, it's happening within you, preparing you for what comes next as the unfolding continues and the story keeps moving forward. And as those inner shifts keep unfolding, you'll notice that your reactions start to change before your results do. Things that once would have triggered frustration won't carry the same weight. Delays won't feel like denial anymore. Silence won't scare you the way it used to. That's because when you move from wanting to having, your trust deepens. You stop asking God to prove himself, and instead you begin to recognize him in the small details, the timing, the calm assurance that settles in your spirit even when circumstances haven't fully caught up yet. You'll start to sense that you don't need to convince anyone of what God is doing in your life. The urge to explain, to defend, to justify your path begins to fade. That's a sign of maturity. That's a sign that your identity is no longer tied to outcomes, but to obedience. You know who you are, not because of what you have, but because of who walks with you. And from that place, having become a responsibility rather than a trophy. There was a time when you prayed, God, if you bless me, I promise but now your prayer sounds different. Now it's, God, since you trusted me with this, show me how to steward it well. That shift in language matters. It reveals a heart that understands that blessings aren't just rewards, they're assignments. They carry purpose. They require wisdom. And God only releases that level of trust to those who've proven they won't misuse it. You may notice that your circle gets smaller as your clarity gets sharper. Not because you're better than anyone, but because alignment matters more now. You can't afford distractions in a season like this. You can't afford to pour into people who drain you without direction. That doesn't make you unkind, it makes you aware. You're learning that peace is expensive and you're finally willing to pay the price to protect it. This season of having will test you in new ways, not with lack, but with choices, not with waiting, but with opportunity. You'll have to decide what to say yes to and what to walk away from, even when it looks good. Discernment becomes more important than desire, because not everything that's available is beneficial, and not every open door is yours to walk through. You'll feel God nudging you, sometimes quietly, sometimes firmly, reminding you that alignment is more valuable than acceleration. You'll also begin to understand that not everyone will celebrate this version. Some people were comfortable with you when you were wanting, when you were searching, when you were unsure. Your growth may unsettle them. Your confidence may expose their complacency, and that's okay. You're not called to stay small so others can stay comfortable. You're called to grow, to expand, to step fully into what God designed you to be. In this season, gratitude becomes your anchor. You don't overlook the progress just because you're still moving. You don't minimize the blessing just because it's still growing. You remember where you came from. You remember the nights you cried, the moments you doubted yourself, the prayers you whispered through exhaustion, and instead of letting success make you forget those moments, you let them shape how you walk now, with humility, with compassion, with awareness. You'll find yourself giving differently too, not just materially, but emotionally, spiritually, intentionally. You'll encourage others with sincerity because you remember what it felt like to need encouragement. You'll speak hope without arrogance. You'll share wisdom without judgment because your journey taught you that everyone is on a process and nobody arrives overnight. There will be moments in this season when you're tempted to rush ahead, to secure everything at once, to make up for lost time. But God will gently slow you down. He'll remind you that sustainability matters more than speed, that depth matters more than display, that the foundation you now will determine how high you can go later. You didn't wait this long to stumble over impatience. You may also notice that your faith becomes quieter but stronger. You don't feel the need to constantly declare what you believe, you live it. You don't need dramatic confirmations because you've learned to trust God's consistency. Your confidence isn't loud, but it's steady. It shows up in how you make decisions, how you treat people, how you handle pressure. That kind of faith doesn't need attention. It commands respect. As having becomes more familiar, you'll start to see opportunities to impact others in ways you couldn't before. Doors open not just for you, but through you. People come to you for guidance, for insight, for perspective. And you'll realize that the authority you carry now was earned through experience, not position, through endurance, not entitlement, through obedience, not opinion. There may be days when the weight of responsibility feels heavy, when you realize that what you've been asking for comes with expectations. But even then, you won't feel alone. God doesn't hand you something and walk away. He stays present. He guides. He corrects. He reassures. The same God who sustained you in wanting will sustain you in having. You'll also begin to redefine success. It won't just be about what you accumulate, but about what you preserve. Your peace, your integrity, your relationship with God, your sense of purpose. You'll realize that true success is being able to have without losing yourself, to grow without becoming disconnected, to receive without becoming entitled. This season will teach you balance, how to work hard without burning out, how to be ambitious without becoming anxious, how to enjoy blessings without worshiping them. And that balance will protect you. It will keep you grounded when things go well and steady when challenges arise. You'll find that some dreams you once held tightly no longer resonate the same way. Not because you failed, but because you evolved. God refined your vision. What once felt important now feels optional. What once felt urgent now feels secondary. And what remains is clearer, purer, more aligned with who you've become. As you walk forward, you'll feel a quiet confidence growing, not rooted in arrogance, but in assurance. You're no longer wondering if God will come through. You're watching Him do it step by step, detail by detail. And that builds a kind of trust that can't be shaken easily. There will still be unknowns, still be moments where you don't see the full picture. But you're no longer afraid of that. You've learned that God often reveals just enough for the next step, not the entire path. And you're okay with that now. You've learned to walk by faith, not force. You may even look back at your old prayers and smile, realizing how much you've grown, how your requests matured, how your faith deepened, how your understanding expanded. You'll see that God didn't just answer your prayers, He upgraded you in the process. This season will also challenge you to remain teachable. Success can make people rigid, but you're choosing to stay open. Open to correction, open to learning, open to growth. You understand that having doesn't mean you've arrived. It means you've been entrusted with more to learn, more to manage, more to steward. And as you continue moving forward, you'll notice that the joy you experience now is different from excitement. It's steadier, calmer, deeper. It doesn't depend on constant stimulation. It flows from contentment, from alignment, from knowing you're where you're supposed to be. You'll begin to see God's fingerprints in moments you once overlooked. Conversations that shift your perspective, opportunities that come at just the right time, protection you didn't even realize you needed. And instead of being surprised, you'll be grateful because now you recognize His patterns. You're learning that having isn't about possession alone, it's about posture. How you hold what you've been given, how you respond when things go right, how you stay grounded when things accelerate. And that posture is what will determine how long this season lasts and how deeply it impacts your life. As the days go on, you'll feel a growing sense of alignment between who you are and what you're doing. Less inner conflict, less second guessing, more clarity, more confidence in your decisions. That's not coincidence, that's confirmation. And even now, as this season continues to unfold, you can sense that this is only one layer, one phase, one chapter, that God is still working, still shaping, still preparing you for even more responsibility, more influence, more purpose. And instead of feeling overwhelmed by that thought, you feel ready. Not because you have all the answers, but because you trust the one who does. So you keep moving forward, staying attentive, staying humble, staying anchored, allowing the process to keep working in you as the blessings keep unfolding around you, knowing that this transition from wanting to having is not an endpoint, but a doorway. And as you step through it, you remain aware that every step still matters, every choice still counts, every moment still carries purpose. And with that awareness, you continue walking, learning, growing, adjusting, trusting, staying close to God's voice as the journey keeps expanding and the next layers begin to reveal themselves in ways you're only just starting to understand. And as you continue walking in this unfolding, you'll realize that the greatest transformation isn't just what you receive, but how you perceive yourself while receiving it. You no longer see yourself as someone waiting to be chosen. You recognize that you were always chosen, just hidden for a season. And that awareness changes the way you carry yourself. You stand differently, you speak differently, you move with intention instead of hesitation, because you're no longer asking for or permission to exist in rooms God already ordained for you to enter. You'll start to notice that your intuition sharpens. You sense things before they fully reveal themselves. You know when to pause and when to proceed. That discernment didn't come from books or advice alone. It came from experience, from making mistakes, from trusting God when logic said otherwise, from learning to listen beyond noise. Now that inner compass is guiding you quietly but consistently, keeping you aligned even when options multiply. In this season, time feels different. You're no longer counting days waiting for something to happen. You're stewarding moments as they happen. You understand that presence matters, that being fully engaged where you are opens doors you didn't even know were available. You stop rushing ahead mentally and start honoring the now because you've learned that God often speaks in the present, not the imagined future. You may also realize that some fears resurface, not because you're regressing, but because growth exposes new layers. Fear doesn't always mean you're going the wrong way. Sometimes it means you're stepping into unfamiliar territory. The difference now is that fear no longer controls you. You acknowledge it, learn from it, and keep moving. You don't let it negotiate your obedience. There's a new level of accountability in this season too. You're more aware of your words, your habits, your choices, not out of pressure, but out of respect for what you've been entrusted with. You know that what you carry now has influence, and influence requires integrity. So you choose honesty even when shortcuts are tempting. You choose patience even when speed is applauded. You choose consistency over hype. You'll notice that your prayers become more collaborative, less pleading, more partnering. You talk to God about decisions, not just desires. You ask for wisdom, not just outcomes. And you listen, you wait, you adjust when needed. That relationship feels closer now, not because God moved, but because you did. You leaned in instead of looking up from a distance. As things stabilize, you may feel a quiet invitation to revisit dreams you once put on hold. Not all of them, but the ones that still carry purpose. You'll see them with fresh eyes, with better tools, with more understanding, and you'll realize that the timing was always part of the plan. That dream couldn't survive the old version of you, but it can thrive now. There will be moments when you outgrow spaces you once prayed to fit into. That can feel bittersweet, gratitude mixed with release. But you're learning that growth often requires letting go with grace. You don't burn bridges, you bless them. You don't resent the past, you honor it. You simply move forward, trusting that God knows exactly where He's leading you next. Your confidence will continue to mature. It won't be tied to comparison or competition. You're no longer measuring your progress against others, because you understand that alignment looks different for everyone. You're focused on faithfulness, not visibility, on depth, not applause. That frees you from pressure and keeps you grounded when success comes quietly. You may notice that you're less reactive now, less pulled into unnecessary conflict, less affected by opinions that once shook you. That's emotional maturity settling in. You've learned that not every battle deserves your energy. That silence can be powerful. That peace is worth protecting, even if it means being misunderstood. In this season, rest becomes productive. You no longer equate rest with laziness. You understand that rest restores clarity, creativity, and strength. You give yourself permission to pause without guilt, knowing that your worth isn't measured by constant output. That balance keeps you sustainable, healthy, and present. As you continue to have, you'll also learn how to receive without suspicion. You won't question every good thing, wondering when it will be taken away. You're healing from a scarcity mindset that was formed in the waiting. You're learning to trust that God's provision isn't fragile, that His blessings aren't temporary tricks, that security allows you to enjoy what's given without fear. You'll see that generosity flows more naturally now, not just in resources, but in time, attention, compassion. You give because you want to, not because you feel obligated. And as you give, you don't feel depleted, you feel aligned. Because City keeps your heart open and your perspective healthy. There may be moments when you look back and hardly recognize the person you used to be, not with judgment, but with compassion. You honor that version of yourself for surviving, for believing, for not giving up. You understand now that every version of you was necessary to become who you are today. As the journey continues, you'll notice that God begins to trust you with more subtle assignments. Not always big announcements, but quiet responsibilities. Being present for someone at the right moment. Speaking truth gently when it's needed. Choosing integrity when no one is watching. Those moments matter more than you realize. They're shaping your character and expanding your influence in ways that don't always make headlines, but make an eternal difference. You'll also learn that not every blessing looks like increase. Sometimes it looks like simplicity, like clarity, like peace, like saying no to things that don't align. You stop equating growth with excess and start valuing sustainability. That shift keeps you focused and fulfilled. As your season of having continues, you'll become more comfortable with mystery. You won't need everything explained immediately. You trust the process because you trust the one guiding it. That faith gives you patience when answers are delayed and confidence when direction is clear. You'll find joy in progress rather than perfection. You celebrate small wins. You acknowledge growth even when there's more to learn. You stop being harsh with yourself and start being honest instead. That grace fuels momentum rather than stagnation. There will be times when you're tempted to look back longingly at the simplicity of wanting, when life felt lighter because expectations were lower. But you'll remember that growth always brings weight, and weight builds strength. You're capable of carrying what you've been given now, even on days it feels heavy. You'll notice that your voice carries more authority, not because you speak louder, but because you speak from experience. People listen differently when wisdom is lived, not rehearsed. And you don't misuse that influence. You use it carefully, thoughtfully, knowing words can heal or harm. As opportunities continue to arise, you'll become more selective. You understand that saying yes to everything dilutes impact. You choose what aligns with your values, your calling, your season. That focus sharpens your effectiveness and preserves your energy. You may still encounter moments of uncertainty, but they won't derail you. You've learned how to navigate discomfort without losing direction. You pause, pray, seek wisdom, and move forward with intention. That rhythm keeps you steady even when circumstances shift. You'll see that God continues to reveal Himself in new ways, not just as a provider, but as a guide, a protector, a teacher. Your relationship deepens as your trust matures. You don't just believe in God, you rely on. As you walk further into this season, you'll recognize that having doesn't complete you. It complements you. Your identity remains rooted in who you are, not what you hold. That understanding keeps you grounded and free. And as life keeps unfolding, you remain attentive to God's voice, responsive to His direction, grateful for His faithfulness, allowing the journey to continue shaping you layer by layer, moment by moment, knowing that this season is still in motion, still expanding, still revealing more than you can fully see right now. And you keep walking forward with humility, confidence, and trust, staying open to what's next, aware that the story isn't slowing down, the growth isn't stopping, and the purpose is still unfolding in ways that will continue to stretch you, refine you, and draw you deeper into alignment as you move steadily ahead, allowing each step to prepare you for the next, without rushing the process, without forcing the outcome, staying present, staying faithful, staying anchored as the journey continues to open before you. And as you remain anchored in that awareness, you'll begin to understand that growth isn't always loud or obvious. Some of the most significant shifts happen quietly beneath the surface where no one is watching. Your thoughts are more disciplined now. Your emotions are more regulated. Your reactions are more intentional. That's evidence of transformation. You're no longer led by impulse or pressure. You're guided by discernment and peace. You'll notice that your tolerance for confusion has decreased. You don't stay stuck in uncertainty for long because you've learned how to seek clarity without panic. You ask better questions now. You listen more carefully. You wait without anxiety. That calm isn't accidental. It's cultivated through trust built over time. In this season, you become more aware of your inner world. You recognize when something is draining you and when something is life-giving. You no longer ignore your boundaries in the name of obligation. You understand that honoring your limits allows you to show up fully where it matters most. That awareness protects you from burnout and keeps your purpose sustainable. You may begin to sense a deeper calling to live intentionally, not just reacting to life, but designing it with purpose. You're mindful of how you spend your time, who you give access to, what you allow to influence your thinking. You understand now that discipline isn't restrictive, it's freeing. It creates space for what truly matters. As blessings continue to unfold, you'll see that gratitude becomes a natural rhythm, not a forced response. You're thankful not only for what you receive, but for what you've survived, what you've learned, and who you've become. That gratitude keeps your heart soft and your perspective clear. You'll also find that your compassion deepens. You're less judgmental, more understanding. You recognize struggle in others because you've lived it yourself. That empathy shapes how you lead, how you support, how you encourage. You don't rush people through their process because you know healing and growth can't be hurried. There will be moments when you feel stretched again, asked to step beyond your comfort zone, but this time you won't resist it the way you once did. You understand that discomfort often signals expansion. You lean into it with curiosity rather than fear, trusting that God doesn't stretch you without supporting you. Your confidence continues to grow, but it remains rooted in humility. You're aware of your strengths, yet mindful of your dependence on God. That balance keeps you grounded. You don't take credit for what grace has accomplished, and you don't underestimate what obedience can unlock. You may notice that your desires continue to refine. What once excited you may no longer hold the same appeal. And that's okay. Growth often changes taste. You're drawn now to depth, to meaning, to alignment. You value substance over surface, authenticity over appearance. In conversations, you listen more than you speak. You're comfortable with silence. You understand that wisdom doesn't need to dominate the room. It carries weight simply by being present. When you do speak, your words are thoughtful, measured, and intentional. As your season of having continues, you'll also recognize moments of pruning. God gently removing habits, mindsets, or attachments that no longer serve you, not as punishment, but as preparation. You're learning to trust that release creates room for expansion. You'll become increasingly aware that comparison no longer has power over you. You celebrate others without feeling diminished. You're secure in your lane, confident in your pace. You understand that what's meant for you won't miss you and what's not won't fulfill you. You may encounter resistance at times, not because you're doing something wrong, but because growth often disrupts comfort, both yours and others. You don't let that resistance discourage you. You remain focused, grounded, and responsive rather than reactive. Your faith continues to mature into something steady and resilient. It's no longer dependent on emotional highs or visible signs. It's rooted in trust built through consistency. You've seen God come through too many times to doubt his faithfulness now. You'll find yourself reflecting less on what you lack and more on what you're learning. That shift keeps you forward focused. You don't dwell on what's missing, you steward what's present. That mindset attracts growth and sustains momentum. As opportunities arise, you approach them with discernment rather than desperation. You're no longer driven by fear of missing out, you're guided by alignment. You understand that saying no can be just as powerful as saying yes. You'll notice that your inner dialogue becomes kinder. You speak to yourself with grace rather than criticism. You recognize that growth includes setbacks and learning curves, that compassion fuels resilience instead of discouragement. You may also begin to experience a deeper sense of purpose in everyday moments. Routine tasks feel meaningful. Ordinary days feel sacred. You recognize that purpose isn't always found in big milestones, but in faithful consistency. As you continue to have, you remain aware that everything you hold is entrusted, not owned. That perspective keeps you generous, flexible, and responsive to God's direction. You're willing to release what He asks for, trusting that He knows what you need and when. You'll notice that your patience deepens. You're not easily frustrated by slow progress. You understand that lasting growth takes time. You're willing to invest in what matters even when results aren't immediate. Your resilience strengthens as you navigate new challenges. You don't crumble under pressure. You pause, assess, and move forward with intention. That steadiness is the result of everything you've been through. You may feel called to mentor, support, or encourage others who are still in their season of wanting. You do so with humility, not superiority. You remember what it felt like to wait, to hope, to wonder if things would ever change. Your presence becomes a reminder that growth is possible. You'll also continue to learn the value of soul. Etude. Quiet moments with God restore your clarity and renew your strength. You don't fill every space with noise. You honor silence as a place of connection and reflection. As your understanding deepens, you'll recognize that God's timing is both precise and personal. What He's doing in your life is intentional, tailored to you, not generic or random. That awareness deepens your trust and fuels your gratitude. You may encounter seasons within this season where things slow down again, but you won't panic. You know now that pauses don't mean regression. They often signal preparation for the next expansion. You remain faithful in the pause, knowing it serves a purpose. Your sense of identity continues to solidify. You're no longer defined by roles, titles, or outcomes. You know who you are at your core. That security allows you to navigate change without losing yourself. As you continue forward, you'll notice that joy becomes more consistent. Not because everything is perfect, but because you're grounded. You've learned how to find peace even when circumstances are still unfolding. You remain open to growth, aware that learning never stops. You seek wisdom, welcome feedback, and stay teachable. That posture keeps you adaptable and effective. You may still feel moments of vulnerability, but they don't weaken you. They remind you of your humanity and your need for God. You don't hide them, you steward them with grace. As life continues to unfold, you stay attentive to God. You trust His guidance even when the path isn't fully clear. You move step by step, confident that each step matters. And as this season continues to evolve, you remain present, faithful, and aligned, allowing the process to keep shaping you, knowing that what's unfolding now is building towards something even greater, something that will require the depth, wisdom, and strength you're developing now. And so you continue walking forward, not rushing, not resisting, but trusting, learning, growing, staying anchored in peace and purpose as the journey continues to open before you, layer by layer, moment by moment, with each step preparing you for what lies ahead as the story keeps unfolding. And now, as we stand at the threshold of this incredible season, understand this clearly. The time of wanting is behind you, and the time of having is before you. Every trial you endured, every moment of patience, every tear you shed in silence was not wasted. It was the preparation for this very moment. You are ready, you are equipped, you are chosen. The blessings, opportunities, and purpose that once felt distant are now within your reach, unfolding in perfect timing. Step forward with faith, with gratitude, and with courage, knowing that God's hand has been guiding you all along. Your season has arrived, and it is a season of abundance, fulfillment, and divine alignment. Embrace it fully, walk in it boldly, and let the world witness what happens when God's chosen ones move from wanting to having.